So when folks, and God bless them, they're trying to help, right? When they tell me what to do with my show and how to grow it, we all say the same things. But the reality for me, when I look at it, I can only put so much attention into so many things at one time. And that thing needs to be a good business partner, right? And so like YouTube is not a good business partner. They'll lights out your show and be like, oh, sorry, you found someone who can talk to us. We didn't mean to do that. It was a mistake. Yeah. And so it's hard to put your roots into something that is not something you can grab a hold of. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. One of our philosophies at Trubify is to put the power back in the artist's hands.
Right.
The record labels and the publishers have, historically they've exploited artists. Everyone knows this. You hear about Spotify and this label and that label and all these things. But there's a deeper issue at hand, which is that not only have artists been disempowered, they literally don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And so they end up going to the Goliaths and seeking their help, whether it's Instagram or YouTube, TikTok, or publishers and labels. And what Trubify is trying to do is to redirect the way that artists can publish, that they can create, and ultimately how they can monetize.
Right.
So
yeah, it's I think about like my cousins are in a band, and they're like a performance electronica band. They're 6 foot tall blonde twins. They're very sacrilegious. And so there's a lot of performance art. There's also really good music, right? And if they could find, and this is where I want like the Trubifies and the YouTubes of the world to get a little better. If they could find 100,000 people and have access to these people. Like one of the things with my show is for a long time, I didn't even rate for my own name on my own show. And I'm like, how can that be? Like, how can somebody else be coming up before me? Yes, there's more than one Pete Turner, that's mine, Pete A. Turner, but those guys weren't even active. And so you have all these problems where I'm not even allowed to be seen. And I'll watch it's not me complaining, it's just me illustrating like the overall problem. So I'll have a video that just goes straight up and all of a sudden hockey stick the wrong way and it's dead, boop, a flat line. And I'm like, that's not me, that's y'all.
Yeah.
How do we deal with that?
Yeah. Well, so that's a good question. It's one of the big issues is engagement, obviously. And, the way that artists are engaging with their fans right now. So actually, there's 2 points. One is that there's a disconnect between engagement and monetization. You would think engagement equals monetization. You think more eyeballs, more money, more for everyone involved. Yeah. And what has happened is that social media has bifurcated this whole system because there's 2, essential goals of the artists. One is to grow their following. The other is to monetize their following. And they're actually done on completely separate channels, which is kind of why Trubify exists, is, to be able to do all that in one channel, not managing multiple platforms. In fact, that's probably been a challenge for you. You have to manage multiple platforms. And so your audience is fragmented. And this one is to grow an audience, and this one's for exposure, and this one's for new viewers. This one maybe you monetize, and it's kind of it's difficult for you as a creator to juggle all that.
Sure. Yeah. And as I'm trying to, again, manage my time, everybody's always pitching me like, here's how you grow. And I'm like, I need real growth. I don't need fake growth.
Right.
There's a problem there. But also like, I don't need to sell shirts because apparently selling shirts, no money in that. So I'm not even going to focus any of my effort. I sometimes publish a podcast channel, traditional, but for the most part, I don't, because I sit there for however long and I get some attention, but I still have to get them off of that platform and over to where I'm at to help me, or to, because Apple's not going to pay me to have people listen to my podcast.
Yeah. And
so I don't publish there reliably because I don't see the value. And then of course it's like, shame on me for not putting myself out there in all these areas. But this, again, it's just using me as an example. I do fine, right? Yeah. Like I get attention and I've gotten better at marshaling my time and attention into a place. But if there is a place like Trubify where I can gather audience, that helps. Is there enough people on Trubify? YouTube has everybody. Oh my gosh, TikTok. But I don't want to be on TikTok and Trubify and YouTube and all these places and sell shirts and send out a newsletter and be on. Oh my gosh, it's exhausting and it's already work, but you can't make it impossible work.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's kind of the problem that we have been trying to solve at Trubify. Right. And I'll say trying because we were able to get 100,000 users, just shy of 100,000 users, which really is not a lot. And it was during our beta program.
Right.
We started doing some test runs with artists, and on a unit basis, it worked really well.
Right.
Because we had so many artists with so many fans, and we had the right fans with the right artists. It worked. It was great. artists actually made a lot of money. We had several bands that were making over $1,000 per stream.
Oh, wow.
Which is a lot of net new revenue for these guys.
Totally. Yeah.
In fact, a lot of them never have made that much money on YouTube or Spotify before.
Yeah. Right.
Where it becomes a sustainable business model is when the flywheel is really going, because we have millions, or is YouTube even billions? A couple 100 million artists would be, or users would be great. YouTube, I think, boasts something like 2.6 billion users, which is like a third of the planet right now.
Yeah.
So growth has been part of Shopify's problem from a user perspective.
Right.
And actually, one of the things that has been a problem is the little bit of crab walk, which is you have artists and you have fans. It's a two-sided marketplace. And you can't just bring a ton of fans and not have the content for them to consume.
Right.
You can't bring a bunch of artists and not have people to consume the content. And so we've been like, artist, more fans, artists, more fans, artists, more fans, which is fine. But the challenge has been sustaining that over longer periods of time with less capital.
Yeah. So, and that gets into, when we were working earlier on the Shopify thing, it was great to be able to bring you some artists and say, here it is. But I also am like, man, how much of my reputation do I put out there on something that is crab walking? And it's a great example of this, because there's not a lot of people there. They could bring their people there, but that's a 10%, 5% proposition, and that's if they have people. If there's someone who's like, I'm world class at this, and so I'll do lessons or whatever else, because they're not going to be there with their buddies and have a band and draw attention, because they aren't the attention drawing person that they're professional.
Yeah, and we've seen, by the way, thank you. I think you brought Heart by Heart, and I think
people,
you brought a bunch of great artists, killer artists, and we've had some success with them. In fact, we had a lot of success. The issue was always that the scalability. And it's a tricky game, because here's the other thing that's tricky about it. We also believe that the name Trubify means the digital troubadour. Yeah. But the word true is also in there because we thought that authenticity was really important to our brand. Yeah. And so we didn't want to grow the platform artificially. We didn't want to grow it the fake the fake way of smoke and mirrors. We wanted real artists with real fans, not buying numbers. Yeah. And I still stick by that, but it's been challenging.
Again, we'll use my growth as an example. So I get offered like, hey, we can help you find followers. And I'm like, okay, real ones. Oh yeah, no, for sure. Real ones. And then so I'll try. And then I'm like, see, my show's idling at this point. Yeah. And if I turn you off, right back to that spot. Yeah. So were they real? I don't know. Oh, you got to do it longer. There's always that. Yeah. So there's that aspect of it. But also when you're trying to get access to new audience, maybe it isn't YouTube that you need to advertise on. Maybe it's Facebook. Maybe it's somewhere else, because that's where they are. And so that's an interesting part of trying to figure out how to find new followers. But you have a whole platform you have to fill with people.
Yeah, and let me just give you a real quick, kind of high level of what Shopify is and why. Okay. So basically, it is a all-in-one platform where artists monetize directly from the relationships and engagement with their fans. Okay. The way the industry works now, basically, is artists publish through a medium, whether it's a TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, or they go through a publisher like a Warner, Sony, something like this. And there's all these middlemen that are taking huge chunks of the cash that's flowing through the systems. Yeah. Music publishing, between live music, music publishing, and music industry in general, sales, it's $100 billion plus industry. But artists see like fractions of cents for these things, for their plays. And the problem isn't a revenue problem. It's a distribution problem, meaning this distribution of the revenue. Right. There's too many middlemen. And so what Shopify tried to do is create a platform where you can, first of all, create content, you can publish content, and you can monetize that content directly. Right. And again, it works great on a unit basis. If you're an artist who has a good following and you can port over a couple % of your followers, we've proven on streams, single streams can generate $1,000+ per stream from artist engagement and interaction. Yeah. But these are these behemoth platforms, YouTube, TikTok. And the problem is that you don't go there to monetize, you go there to create an audience, but you're monetizing by selling t-shirts or by doing these other engagements. Yeah. And so Shopify's concept was to build a platform that handles the marketing for you, because you don't want to do that as an artist. Right. So when you sign up for Shopify, we collect your photos and your blurps and your assets, and we put together your marketing materials for you. You can tap them out to other social media platforms and direct people back to Trubify. Again, it's a scalability problem that we're having now.
Yeah. Boy, there are so many things you have to do when you're an artist. You have to obviously create the media. You've got to social mediate. You've got to, you're the marketing person. You're the PR person. Because for me, PR, right? If I go get on TV, my followers are going to go up. I don't need someone else to advertise for me and promise me robot followers. But now I got to get on LA Live more than once. And so that's a whole job.
It's a full-time job.
And if you were to pay PR people, and PR people are worth it because the money is there, but that's tens of thousands of dollars a month.
Yes, it is.
And so it is hard. And then also you can wear that out and be like, oh, I'm too seen. And now the value, it's a whole different proposition. So I like the idea that you guys are helping with the marketing part and creating things. Like I'm going to use StreamYard, right? It's a pretty good program. It's professional. There's some tools I'd like to see, and maybe we'll talk about that. But they push out to a good number of social media things. So right now we're live streaming on Instagram, on YouTube, Facebook, a couple of Facebook, and then I have a sub level of publisher that pushes out to even more channels. And if I spend time, I can send it out to wherever I'm allowed to send things. Even on like sub pages on Facebook, I can publish. So it's pretty robust in terms of pushing out, but it is not robust at attracting. It's not sticky. And so I'm just pushing noise out, and I'm not, this is my communication degree talking. No one's communicating in a signal that is responsive. It's just, the only signal I get is you don't exist. And so I now have to decide, again, where do I want to fix this? How do I draw attention? How do I maximize that push? Because is that a push even worth doing? Like podcasts, people are there, but they're not valuable to me.
Well, so that's a really good point. One of the problems with the fragmented audience, you have a segment here and a segment there and a segment here.
Right.
Is people aren't, there's so many options now for platforms. We don't think anyone's loyal to Trubify. They're loyal to their artists.
Right.
And that's by design. We're not looking for people to be loyal to Trubify.
Right.
You're loyal to your artist. You're going there because that's where your artist is performing. That's where you can interact with your artist. And we would like to create brand loyalty with Trubify with people, but that's such a game of scale. You're talking hundreds of millions of users. I mean, people love YouTube, but they're still not loyal to YouTube.
Right.
People love TikTok or Instagram. They're still not loyal to those platforms.
Right.
So if someone could devise a system or a platform that creates a unique engagement that they can't get anywhere else with a lot of different artists, or in your case, creators, that would be a win for everyone. I think part of the problem too is that we all have a very short attention span these days, and everyone has created, let's look for the biggest, next, better, newer thing, right?
Right.
And there's also another problem, which is app fatigue, app download fatigue. People are tired of adding yet another app to their screen, to their home screen. Yeah, it's a problem.
It's true. Whenever I go, they're like, "Oh, get on your dashboard." I'm like, "No, I don't have a dashboard." No, you have to download the app. And I'm like, "Yeah, see, that's a problem. I haven't received an authorization request for you to download an app on my phone." And I put my own terms and conditions into these things, because I'm tired of having 5 pages. I delete them all the time. I haven't used it in 6 months. It's out. I don't want that, right? And I guess the loyalty I have, say, towards YouTube is that it's just the button I push to see the video. Like I watched some videos on the way over here as I was driving along. I listened to music while I was there. But I use YouTube for that. I don't want to pay Spotify for something that I can do somewhere else.
By the way, I'm a huge fan of YouTube. I love YouTube. I'm a rabbit holer, right? So I also like knowledge, right? I watch stuff on quantum mechanics. I watch, really, cosmology. I watch physics and science and how it's made and all these different things. I like to understand that. But the problem is that I don't know if a lot of these people, well, I think when you have a large enough audience, you are monetizing. But still, though, we hear about these super low payouts. And it's not because there's not money flowing through the system. But YouTube knows that they're the giants. I absolutely love them. In fact, I watch way more YouTube than I watch television.
Sure, same.
And there's some great knowledge there. So I don't ever, so I'm not sour on YouTube by any means. I think it's a great platform. I wish there was a way for creators to monetize their audience in a very fair way. You keep hearing about this fair play, this fair, there's a whole thing in the music scene right now of people want to just get paid fairly. And that's what Trubify has been trying to do. In fact, our business model allows for fair pay,
Yeah.
but it's a game of scale. We need to scale for it to work.
Yeah. Boy, yeah, that game of scale thing, right? It's so tough. And you're right, like Spotify pays nothing. I mean,
well, and can I address that real quick?
please.
You know, a lot of people are hard on Spotify. Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify, made an uncouth statement. When artists were saying to him, we want to get paid more, his response was, well, then create more.
Yeah.
And that didn't come across well, because people were like, well, I'm already doing everything I can. Plus I have to manage my marketing and my social platforms and everything else.
Right. Yeah.
But there's another issue too, which is that the way that the publishers work with the copyright owners and holders, or as the copyright holders and owners, it's very, they take the bulk of the revenue. Right. It's not even Spotify's fault. And I'm not here to defend or go against Spotify. I think it's a great streaming service. But there's an inherent problem in the industry, which is that the way that the royalties are distributed based on the publishing rights and the contracts that were made, even the legacy contracts, they're very unfair to artists. You know, you hear Chappell Roan on the Grammys saying, like, all I want is to have health care as an artist, and I can't even get that. Yeah. That's a problem, right? They can't, they're not even making minimum wage. Yeah. But so the solution, the reason that we think Trubify is the solution is we are not dealing with master recordings that were recorded by the record labels. We're saying to all these creators, come create content. We have licenses to do cover songs, so you can do any song in the world almost, plus create original content. Instead of giving them to the vampire, you know, the labels and the publishers that are sucking the blood dry from the revenue, publish them on Trubify, and we'll give you 80% of the net revenue, which is a great deal. An artist can make an amazing living on Trubify at scale. At scale. That's the key. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah. So is the answer, and look, this is just me asking you, so you tell me, because you know the market better than I do. Is the answer then to get sucked up by like YouTube or Spotify and just become that vehicle for them?
Well, we've been asked that question a lot. My concern about that is, I'll tell you what I think the answer is. Okay. But my concern about getting sucked up by a YouTube or a Spotify, we're actually in conversations right now with an acquirer, a potential acquirer who has a huge platform. Yeah. And we're very complimentary and not competitive to them. Sure. Okay. So if that can go forward, it would be a great opportunity for artists. Right. And I'll explain a little bit more on that in a moment. But the problem is I'm afraid that if we get absorbed by one of the major platforms, we just become another part of the problem. Yeah. Because we lose control over the vision. Absolutely. And the vision has been a lot of people don't know my background. I won't get into the whole thing, but you know, I was a Hollywood artist, I was a performing artist, a recording artist, and a songwriter, and I couldn't make money fast enough to pay the bills, no matter how much I worked. Yes. So in the case of what I think the solution is, it has to be a platform that has a large user base, but is truly advocating for the creator. Okay. I think YouTube is great. I don't think that they're advocating for the revenue of the creator. In fact, YouTube used to pay out a lot more back in the day. Yeah. Right. And they cut the payouts. Yeah. Well, and this is what I complain about Patreon is Patreon's desperate to get between me and my patron. Yes. And then there's political things. And you're like, whoa. I'm just making music here. Like, don't get in between me and my thing. And so there are those problems where, look, the big house has to make its money, right? And this is where I am critical of Spotify. I can look at how many subscribers they have, and I can do math. And I know it costs money to run that thing, but a fraction of a penny? Well, so there's another issue with Spotify, and this is where maybe I do have an issue with Spotify. Okay. I don't think a lot of people know this. They are side contracts with specific artists that they get paid more than everyone else. Yeah. And I understand how business works, but I'm going to give you an example. Yeah. Taylor Swift. We love Taylor. Right. We absolutely adore her music. We adore her as a person. Right. Taylor Swift's publishers and label, and even Taylor Swift, because I know she's gone and self-published a lot of stuff, they make special deals with Spotify where they get paid more. Yeah. The problem is that when you have your Spotify subscription, you're throwing money into the kitty. Right. Okay? And when the publishers have to take their chunk, and then they split up the rest amongst the views or the plays of the artists. Right. But the problem is that these top tier artists are skimming off the top the majority of the revenue.
Right.
So what that means is they might be getting, I don't know the exact numbers because they don't really publish them.
Right.
They might be getting, I don't know if it's a penny a play, but they're getting some larger amount, which means that the independent artist, which makes up 98% of the user base, by the way, there's like 11 million creators on Spotify. There's 30 million creators on SoundCloud.
Right.
But the way that the revenues are split, which is like the inverted pyramid where, 10% of the artists take 90% of the revenue, 90% of the artists split the remaining 10% of the revenue. It's not a fair shake. It's not a fair deal.
So even if Spotify took less of a piece of the pie, it's still going to have the same bad math for the folks in the 90% who get the 10%.
That's exactly right. And what Trubify does is it levels the playing field.
Okay.
I really wish that we could get more people behind Trubify because, again, it's a scale thing. But Trubify levels the playing field. We don't care if you're Taylor Swift. We don't care if you're 17 years old playing in mom's basement. You're going to get paid the same amount per view.
Right.
And that's really important to us. We want to level the playing field, number one. Number two, we because of the way that our contracts work with the labels, or I'm sorry, with the performance rights organizations, we don't deal with the master recording. So what that means is when you create a piece of content on Trubify, you own it. And there's one other thing I want to say here too is on YouTube or these other platforms, they still own the relationship with the artist. They have all the data. They have all the metrics.
Right.
You just get the benefit of having a large audience and maybe you can monetize fractions of pennies.
Right.
Same thing with Spotify. Trubify, we not only empower, we encourage the artist-fan relationship so that you own your own audience.
Right.
And that's one of the other great things about Trubify.
Yeah.
We're actually giving, sorry, I'll say one last thing too. Yeah. So for this is specifically to the artists out there and to the fans who want to support their favorite artists, we have what we call Fanalytics.
Oh, okay, good.
Fanalytics is we actually give you, and YouTube gives analytics and insights into your audience too. But we're doing it in a way that allows you to own your own audience, unlike some of these other platforms.
Yeah, one of the things YouTube also does is they try to rub my back, like, hey, post more videos like that one. And I'm like, I did, motherfuckers.
Right.
And you didn't allow it. It got a 0. 0. If you post something on YouTube and you get a 0, that's on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's the same show. It's the same hour. It's the same 0. And you're going to tell me, hey, attaboy. Like, no, I don't need a back rub. I need a partner.
That's right.
Fanalytics sounds like that's a lot closer to what I'm looking for. And I really should get back into pushing the show out on Trubify. I'll figure out how to do that later on. But the that scale thing though, right? Like how do you get 100 million people on?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. And that's really what I would really love this podcast to do for Trubify.
Please.
In addition to helping artists know that there's another platform out there and fans to know that they can support their artists directly and kind of inspire entrepreneurs that are trying to do things to change their industry to, see people are doing it, all of that. We need more capital, to be frank. It's investors. That's what we're shooting at right now.
Right.
Because the capital unlocks the ability to go and market to larger groups of people.
Right.
It really becomes a chicken and egg problem. Who comes first, the artist or the fan? And like I said, the crab walk, it's a matter of moving them both up in some sort of synergistic equal equal field. And we had some great capital investors and partners, including University of California, Irvine's co-fund.
Nice.
They led the seed round and some other great capital partners. But at this point, they put in so much money and it's like they need, someone else to step up.
Someone else. Yeah.
So right now we can solve the problem. In fact, we did we acquired almost 100,000 users at, I won't give the exact number, but it's sub what almost all apps pay for new users. And the reason for that is that one artist can attract thousands of new users. If you like this artist, you're going to come over if they're doing exclusive engagements on Trubify. So for us, it's a matter of getting more capital to be able to support these artists with marketing efforts, to get the word out, to let people know we exist, to get out on these other channels and say, hey, we have content that's exclusive that you want to see and that you can connect directly with your artist. Now, I want to make this clear too. I know there's YouTube Live and you can chat and stuff. Trubify allows fans and artists to interact live during performances or post-performance. And it's really one of the magical parts of Trubify is you can feel a direct, close experience. And if you support your fan or your artist monetarily, it's a direct thing. You're not putting it through an app that's just cold giving some cash to someone. You're having direct, personal, warm interactions with your audience and your fans.
Because I've turned myself into a producer, I'm always thinking about, what I can create or what kind of show I could put on. And, my buddy John, who I started the show with, we talk about all the time, the different, like a theater size act and maybe, a club size act or even, an arena size act and what it takes to get them to go on the road and all that. And it's hard. And then what kind of bands are allowed to do that? Like, no, we don't book cover bands in here because we're a theater. And like, no, we've got 1,000 people at a show. Like, no, thanks. We don't book, so you have all these barriers between doing this, but it does sound like with Trubify, you could just like, here we go, and then put on a theater or a dinner room kind of show and make some good money.
Yeah, so that's one of the things about Trubify. We built the app in a way that you can go live right from your cell phone with your camera and your mic, just as is, which you can do on other platforms, or you can plug in a 3-camera shoot at the Hollywood Bowl.
Right.
And it's so seamless and easy. That was the whole concept, was we should make it so anyone can do it.
Yeah.
And we've encouraged artists to do this. We had a guy that started streaming from Whiskey Row in Nashville.
Okay.
And he did In the Rounds,
Right.
where he would bring other artists in and they would do their round. And, and it was a wild success. He had so many viewers. He was monetizing it, sharing it with the artists.
Right.
It was a wild success. What we need is more people like this. It's not just these one-offs that we've done engagements with one-offs very successfully. We need the mass to now kind of the critical mass to create this flywheel effect where it's going on its own.
What is how big can an act be? And like, oh no, this is worth our time. I mean, that's a fair question, right? They've got all these things they need to do. If they come to Trubify and they want to put something on, are they a band that can sell 10,000 records? Are they a band that can sell 100 records? What size? And I know like you're also going to say all of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, legitimately, like if you're making a lot of money by doing certain things, how do you get them to switch over and say, hey, this is going to be even better for you?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. What we have found was that it was less about the audience size. I mean, their size matters.
Sure.
It does.
Yeah.
But it was more about the engagement. And the reason I say that is we have one of our bands sold, I don't know the exact numbers, but a couple years ago, they sold more vinyl than Billie Eilish sold that year.
Wow.
The Monophonics.
Yeah.
They're a great neo-soul band.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. Now, their style of music lends themselves to vinyl, and they push their vinyl, and they're really into their vinyl.
Right.
So I get why they did that. That's their audience.
Yeah.
But they come on Trubify, and they would generate $1,000 a stream.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah. How often are they streaming?
They haven't streamed in a while because we're waiting for the next tranche of capital.
Yeah.
Because we support them.
Right.
When we have an artist do it, we actually send out a camera. Or camera crew, actually, a couple cameras. Usually it's a multi-camera shoot. And that's not a sustainable business model, except with our partnered artists.
Right.
But we want to get to a point where a lot of people realize, holy shoot, all I got to do is set up my phone in the theater and just go live, and I'm making net new revenue.
Yeah.
The reason I want to break down a bigger artist like Monophonics and smaller artists, we've had smaller artists that don't have a huge following at all, who have made hundreds of dollars per stream.
Yeah.
Now you have one that has, 500,000 monthly active Spotify listeners of the Monophonics making $1,000 a stream.
Right.
Then you have someone else that has 200 monthly active followers on Spotify, but they're making $200 a stream.
Right.
So you would say, well, wait a minute. You would think that one would make a lot more than the other, but it boils down to engagement. What we found was that smaller artists tend to be more intimately, personally engaged with their audiences. And that's actually the magic point here, because there are, for every one big artist, there's 1,000 smaller artists.
Yeah.
And the bigger artists, now I say big artists, like the Taylor Swifts don't need Trubify.
Right.
Harry Styles doesn't need Trubify.
Right. Yeah.
But there are, for every one of those guys, there's 1,000 or 10,000 smaller artists that have great music. They're great performers, great songwriters and singers, and they don't know what to do because they can't monetize anywhere. Right. Trubify is the solution for them.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, because we're talking about tariffs and all these kind of things going on right now. Taylor Swift can tariff anybody.
That's right.
Like, you don't get, which is what she said, I'm taking my stuff off Spotify. They worked out a deal.
That's right. So those are those customized deals that I was telling you about, right? Where she's getting a bigger cut of the pie. It's not like she gets the same payout as I get, or you get, or he gets. Right? She's getting this as a payout per play, and we're getting this much as a payout per play.
Yeah.
And I get it, but it makes it an unfair playing field, and it disincentivizes creators from creating.
Yeah. I'm on X. This is going out on X Live right now too. And when these platforms come up, they don't have a you there to go. I spent a whole bunch of time spending writing posts to Elon Musk that, he didn't work, but you try, right? And I'm like, here's what you need to focus on. One, can you break acts? Have an A&R guy go out and be like this. And then literally Elon Musk can go, Trubify, and it's like, bam, and it'll shoot off. And you need to do that 2 times a quarter. I'd pay money for that at my scale, like I'll don't pay me, just pay me in a touch, that kind of thing. But they don't even think about that. And then the barrier to get in, you've got to have like millions of impressions in 3 months, millions and millions. And so it's certainly accomplishable, but also I have to be allowed to exist. When you show my post to 50 people, well, now I have to put something up like, I don't like Donald Trump. And then, now I get 5,000.
Right.
And that's not what we need to do. We need to incentivize quality as much as we can, or whatever it is, right? And push a different thing. X is bad at that.
Yeah.
And they're trying to be good at it. They say they're trying to be good at it.
One of the technologies that we developed, it's in alpha testing now. Mm-hmm. It's not available for every artist on Trubify right now.
Okay.
But it is our collab. Mm-hmm. And collab is a double entendre there. You're collaborating with other artists, but it's also the kids call the studio now the lab. Like, what are you cooking up in the lab? So it's collab, right? You're collabing, you're creating a mutual experience. The cool thing about this is that we believe that through music networking, we will be able to broaden out fan bases and attract more people to the platform. Sure. So it's in alpha testing now. We have a bunch of artists that are, you lay a drum beat, you post it on the collab feed. Well, I come in as a bass player, and then the guitarist comes in, and then the keyboard player, and then a singer, and everyone's creating. Yeah. And there's multiple branches that can happen, because one drummer, 10 different bass players can put a bass track. Sure. Well, 1 or 2 of those are going to bubble up to the top. Yeah. And then a couple of guitar players put things on, but 1 or 2 of those are going to bubble up to the top. The reason that this is so important, we think, in the expansion of monetization for the artists in the music industry, and expansion of new and creative content for fans who are always looking for new stuff to consume, is this is such a unique type of content to be able to collaborate with artists from initially around the United States, and eventually we have licenses for all North America, but eventually we want to go global. Sure. And you could have some guy playing sitar on your track, because you never know what that creativity is going to spark. Yeah. And it's all monetizable on Trubify.
I keep thinking about your crab, because I'm like, I'm not scheming, but I am thinking like, oh my gosh, I should have so-and-so call you, and get right to it. But again, the crab has to have both sets of legs.
That's right.
God, it's so tough. So, I mean, all this stuff you're saying is fantastic, and it's so much better than what's out there. Yeah. And this is not me, this is me genuinely saying this to my buddy Steve. So I'm excited to hear that. What is the catch? I mean, obviously you need people there. You need funding. Funding helps you keep the lights on, and then hopefully drive new artists to you guys. Yeah. We've had a wild success with funding. We won a couple years ago. We won the gold medal in Pepperdine's most fundable company in America. Oh, wow. There were 4,500 entrants. Yeah. We have something of consequence that's really important. That the vision is great, the team is great, the product is great, and it's ever evolving. Yeah. We reached a brick wall last year or the year before that with funding. The capital markets kind of seized up, if you remember there. Yeah. And investors kind of, started stockpiling cash and not deploying. And what hurt us there was we lost our momentum. We had phenomenal momentum. We went from 0 to almost 100,000 users in like a year. We went from 0 to almost 1,600 artists. Yeah. We had some great partners, artist partners. And when the funding kind of dried up, and it wasn't just for us, there was a lot of people, a lot of startups going through this, it really killed the momentum. And so now we're getting we're getting it going again. We have a couple investors that have stepped up and put some capital in most recently, and kind of pull the ripcord again. Yeah. But now we're looking for the larger capital support from the people that understand the vision. They want to change they want to be disruptive to the music industry. They want to make sure that artists are getting paid fairly. By the way, this is a topic you see all over if you look for it. Yeah. Like, we want creators need to get paid fairly. Yeah. We hear about it on the Grammys, like we said, right in the middle of her speech, Chapel's speech. So anyway, we know that those investors are out there, the right ones are out there, and we just need to keep
turning over every rock and kissing every frog, so to speak, until the prince appears.
Yeah. Like we got to do the hard work, right?
We got to do the hard work.
But we got to figure out where the work is at. So the finding where the work is at is critical in these cases, because again, if I'm focused on Facebook, that's not where the work is at. And I'm picking on Facebook right now. Sometimes that is where I need to do the work. But I have a technical question for you. So I know that one of the challenges I've had in trying to do my own version of Live from Daryl's House on my own show is my setup can't handle the amount of data that's coming in when the sound hits the microphones. It just the pipeline from you to the listener, it's too muddy, and so not all the sound gets through.
Well, I don't know what your mic setup is, but this is where it's funny. There are good microphones that you can have a single sound source mono microphone that can pick up a room and actually do a really good job recording it. But that means that the band has to be balanced in their performance levels.
Right.
Ideally, if you are a small band, you have to, it is one of the technical challenges.
Right.
You have to be able to balance the sound in the room. If you're a larger band, you have microphones and a mixer, and there's a sound engineer who's doing all that
mixer,
for you.
Though, it's come through, it drops out sound.
Interesting. Well, you might want to look at your level. So just to get a little technical here, the sound engineers will know what we're talking about here. But there is a sweet spot where, you know, you're below the max headroom. You're above your, comfortable sound floor.
Right.
And it's really a matter of just dialing in channel by channel.
It's an engineering thing.
It's an engineering thing.
Okay. All right.
Well, and there's one other thing too, which is also check your master bus. And what I mean by that is that you have multiple sound sources all getting mixed down into a master bus. And a lot of people, they either overcompress it, and that can create some grit and some distortion, or they are trying to make everything louder.
Louder is a good answer.
So a quick solution to that is cut things more than you're turning things up.
Yeah. I also think that there's at least how I'm set up, the software after me and you talk. The microphones are fine going into the computer. And then I don't control the rest. And so I think that there's problems there, and it just kind of amscrays. It just like, it's too confusing for me, And so the ones and the zeros just come through in a way that it just can't handle.
There, it probably is a mixing problem at that point, or a master bus problem.
Right. Okay.
Meaning, if all your individual sound source signals are good, and it's just coming out distorted, the answer is pretty much to lower. And
I'm saying distortion. It sounds pixelated in the sound.
That would be distorted. Okay. Or if it's pixelated, well, there's another factor here, which is making sure that your bit rate, or more so your sample rate, is the same from your source to where it's going. And what I mean by that is that some movie industry uses 48,000 sample, 48K sample rate. Audio typically tends to be 44.1. Or some increment of it, 88.2, etc. Make sure that they're the same, because if you have 44.1 going into 48, it's going to sound like a robot pixelated, because there's samples that are missing when it's trying to keep them together.
Well, and also making sure that your upload speed is...
And upload speed's a huge one.
Massive, right? And that means if it's at 8, that's barely minimal, and if you get to 15, then you're probably in pretty good shape. But if that at all dips, and it dips.
It does dip,
So so that's a big thing. Okay, so we talked a little bit about that. The collab thing is interesting, because one thing I want more of is real musicians playing real instruments. I don't even want like keypad, right? I want you and strings. I don't want keys, like actual keys hitting strings. But I want that over a synth. I don't mind a synth, but I don't want the synth playing every single sound in the world.
So we explored some AI music technology for artists who don't have other musicians to play with, to jam with. And we think that's cool, and we think it has its place. But we don't think that it replaces real musicians. And one of the things, it's funny, because a lot of people say, like, are you guys all AI? Well, we have an AI component, but we're actually very much for the mechanical artist, musician actually playing their instruments. We think that it's going to be a lost art if we don't, support that. And that's why the collab feed is so cool, because drummers can post their drum loops, bass players can come in and add, the guitar players, the keyboards, the singers, and this and that. And it opens up a new world where it's not just AI artist robots, jamming away.
Yeah.
We think it's important too, also because an AI robot isn't going to necessarily have an audience or a following.
Right.
So, if you have, one of our artists is J.R. Robinson. He's,
right.
You're
welcome.
Yeah, that's right. From you. That's right. That's another one from you. Yeah. So for those that don't know, J.R. is the most recorded drummer in history.
Yes.
In the early 80s, he had like 80% of the top 100 Billboard chart was him on drums. Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Madonna.
So yeah,
just phenomenal drummer.
Right.
So he's created the whole drum library that's up on Trubify,
Right.
So artists will be able to go and jam with like Michael Jackson's drummer, like go and create content with Madonna's drummer,
right.
And what happens too is that people that love JR, they're going to want to see what his content has created with these other artists. So there's a collaborative element that AI is never going to do.
Yeah, yeah. One of my young emerging artists that I know about is her name's Sage Logan, and she has wonderful music. But it's the same problem where, like, how do you differentiate? Are you just like Ariana Grande? And you don't got to be a little bit. And I'm not saying she is, but all of a sudden it's really hard to be like the next girl that sounds similar to the other girls. All talented, but when you're in the mix, it's hard to pull you out of the mix.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense? And I'm not trying to be unfair to any of these people but there is similarity, and the industry. You've seen this. They're like, get me someone that sounds like someone,
yes.
And so the someone's below that level all sound similar too.
Yeah.
And so how do you create that uniqueness? Because they are unique.
Yeah, they are unique.
But you have to get into the micro, and you have to be able to find them to find that uniqueness.
I think that's what the collab feed does too, because the collab feed actually, I'll say one other thing, because it adds to the uniqueness factor.
Yes.
We're actually saying that you don't even need to be a musician to collab.
Right.
Because someone posted one of our alpha collab team.
Yeah.
They went onto another platform and they pulled up horses trotting, trot, 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 trot,
Yeah.
and they jammed over it. And the horse trotting became the drummer.
Yeah.
And it was like people thought it was way cool.
Yeah.
Or people doing someone else had what were they doing? Someone was typing in the background and they were going
Sure.
And they put music to the person typing,
Yeah.
So like we want to encourage everyone to become an artist, to find ways to create and collab. The reason is that then that starts cutting through the noise. There's something interesting and intriguing. The brain says, oh, this is different. Then this artist who's singing, who maybe could have just gotten lost in the mix of everyone else that sounds similar, they can stand out.
I don't know if you saw the I think it was maybe it was Dolly Parton's documentary, but when she writes 9 to 5, she's just like with her nails.
Yeah.
And that creates that typing kind of buzz and everything. And it's funny because they're like, can you write a song? She's like, please.
Yeah.
Of course, it's already written.
Yeah.
And can we hear it? Like, well, I have to sit down and actually do it.
That's
and then
right.
she does it, and like seconds later, it's done, because she's so brilliant. I love that. And that is always possible. There's a sound, it probably needs it anymore, but I was in the main train station in Paris, and it was like the alert was like, dong, dong. And I'm like, dong, 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 dong. And like you can make a song out of these things. I love when I hear things in real life, like when our washing machine quits, it's the same song everybody has, dun, 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 dun. And then I wrote lyrics to it. And so this is the same kind of thing you're talking about.
Yes.
But like it goes, it's done, it's done, it's done. I have very good news, such good news. That's the song. I have very good news. It's done. I kind of. But that collab space is a space for that.
There is a space for that, because music is the art of sound.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something once that I really liked. It said, let me see if I can remember. It said, if art is decorating the space, music is decorating the time. Mm-hmm. And, we all have some sort of musician in us. In fact, it's known everyone loves, first of all, everyone loves music. It's pretty ubiquitous, right? Secondly, everyone can be a creator. So Instagram did something for everyone. It allowed everyone to be a published photographer, right? Instagram said, hey, here's a platform, here's filters, Snapchat, I guess you could say, did that to me. Everyone can be a model, all these different filters. Trubify wants to help anyone become a musician if they want to be.
Yeah. So if I wanted to go out and I wanted to do like a duet album with, Elvis Costello and whoever else it is, right?
Yeah.
I can then take that and put that on because the licensing part is handled by you guys.
Yes, but I want to clarify something.
please.
So we do have in the future the ability to use content that's owned by the publishers, which would be like the master recordings that we all hear on the radio that we love.
Okay.
But our licensing allows for those same pieces, but you have to create them or someone has to create them.
Okay.
Meaning I can't post Elvis doing Elvis's song,
Right.
but I can post you doing Elvis's song.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And where the collab comes in interesting is that we can take components of songs that already exist. So in the collab, in the alpha feed that we built, the alpha product that we built,
Right.
someone took a drum beat that some guy did that had no semblance to anything you've ever heard. It was a weird, awkward, weird timed beat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And someone else laid the guitar riff for Led Zeppelin's Fool in the Rain.
Nice.
And it's not copywritten because you can't copyright a progression.
Right.
But that allows someone to create a unique piece of work over that. As long as they don't use the same lyrics or melody, they can create a new piece of music from that.
Yeah.
As soon as someone starts singing the lyrics with the melody over it,
Right.
we can still do that because that's still a cover version. And you can do that and you can create all you want from that. But as soon as you actually take the sample or the clip from the actual Led Zeppelin recording, that becomes area that is why Spotify and YouTube aren't paying out artists a lot, without getting into the mechanics of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, my niece took me to an eye appointment the other day, and I think it was Chapel Roan that was playing. Maybe it's Lana Del Rey. That's who it was. And there was this, it sounds like Radiohead's Creep. I didn't know any of this getting into the car. I sit down, and in the background, I'm like, oh, it's Creep. Oh, Lana Del Rey singing Creep. And I'm saying it's Lana Del Rey. Maybe it's not, but I think it is. And I said, hey, this song's great. Who sings this? And she said Lana Del Rey. And again, this is the part I'm not 100% sure it was Lana Del Rey. But and I'm like, yeah, it sounds like Creep. She's like, does? Everybody's been saying that. I'm like, yeah, watch, start it again. And she's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It sounded just like it. But there's also a lot of difference in that song.
Yeah.
So there's it's like an homage, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know when an homage becomes a licensing problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's close. And there's certain parts, but not the whole thing.
Yeah, so this is actually one of the ways that Trubify uses AI in a positive way. We, our music, any music that's created there can be listened to, it can be identified. We can know whether it's a master recording or whether it's just a version of that, an interpretation.
Yeah.
And the thing that's cool about that is that we allow interpretations to be done. In fact, you can monetize interpretations on Trubify.
Right.
And to be able to collab with these interpretations. And that becomes really, really, really cool because a lot of new content will be created on Trubify that does not exist in the world yet and can be monetized. That's the real key for the artist because that means that they can keep doing what they love and not just having to go and slice ham at the deli counter.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what I want Sage singing. I want her doing all kinds of things. And it's hard because she's got to stay motivated even. Like that's hard. It's crushing when you're like, I'm playing my heart out for 4 people, if there's 4 people, right? Like it's really tough to do. Everybody can talk about that once they made it, but that kills most bands.
Absolutely.
When you're trying to scrape together that, it's not cheap to publish a song. So just for everybody knows, it's thousands of dollars to publish a song. To scrape that money together, pour heart and soul, hours and hours, and then you publish it, and it's like 5 spins, and it'll go up over time, but you can only do that for so long.
That's right.
Before something has to happen, which that thing usually is you go cut meat at the deli.
Yeah. And that's why I keep talking about Trubify being a scale problem. Yeah. Yes, we have artists that have made hundreds or $1,000 on a single stream. That's true.
Yeah.
But all artists cannot do that until we have a large following. If we don't even need to be YouTube size with billions of users.
Right.
If we had even, 10 million or 20 million listeners on Trubify, I mean, the amount of revenue that we can generate for the artist is astronomical compared to what they're earning today. And our answer isn't just the Daniel Ek of, hey, well, just create more content. If you don't like it, make more. Yeah. It's like, no, we want you to make it when you're genuinely inspired to do so. Right. We want you to go live. We want you to create. We want you to upload. We want you to publish. But we wanted to do it. We want you to do it because guess what? You didn't have to go to the deli counter and slice meat today. You actually feel inspired.
Yes.
You actually, that song in your head that you wrote in the shower, you don't have to burner it. You can actually go and sit down at your computer and create and publish it on Trubify.
Yeah, no, that's neat. I want to use another use case. Chris Thomas King is a friend of mine. He's one of the most preeminent blues musicians in the world, but he doesn't exist on X. He doesn't exist on YouTube. Sure, he's there and he publishes his stuff all the time. And he can do every single thing in music that you need to. And he also can play different eras. Like nobody plays early blues better and more accurately than him. That's just what he does. But, and I don't want to act like he's not successful, because he is. He's won Grammys and everything. But for him, he has to go out on the road. And he loves going on the road, right? But he also has a family and everything else. So you have all these things. He can't even get traction on YouTube to be allowed to make not enough money. And that's the part that you guys are trying to solve. So someone like Chris, whether he goes into the collab space, and I want you to talk me through this, who needs to build an audience, a digital audience, right? Doesn't really necessarily have one that is viable. How does he leverage his capability, his notoriety to get enough there so that when he does sit down, there is $1,000 at the end of that session? Or even, look, if you did 20 things a month or a year and they were $500 a piece, at least you made some money, right? Yeah. And I'm not saying that Chris doesn't have that capability, but what's the pathway for someone like Chris who has all of the music part figured out, but has to build a digital audience? Yeah.
Well, specific to Trubify, you mean, or just
let's do Trubify.
Yeah. So on Trubify, again, we're going to go back to the scale thing, right? At scale, there's a lot of consumers, and you get paid a lot more per view, like 10x what you would get paid on YouTube. Right. And so that adds up, very quickly. Number one. Number two, the collab feed. I'm glad you brought that up again, because that's a big factor. For someone like that, we also have Grammy winners on Trubify, you know? Yeah. And so for these guys to collaborate together is a big deal. To be able to do cross promotion or cross audience engagement is a big deal. Yeah. And we're not shoving it down your throat of, hey, you have to collab with this guy, you have to collab with that guy. Like, no, go find people that you feel a symbiotic, vibe with. Go and groove with people, because what happens is that so the way the collab feed works is, and again, that feature is in alpha. It's not available to everyone right now. It's for select Trubify artists that we work with as partnered artists. Gotcha. Yeah. And if you're an artist and you're interested in Trubify, or you're an investor and you want to know more, definitely reach out to me. I would love to talk to you more about these things. And they can reach out to me at Steven@Trubify.com, STEPHEN @Trubify, TRUBIFY.com. So if you reach out, I'd love to share this with you. But basically what happens is that you can go and collaborate with other artists, and you're cross-pollinating your user base and engagement, and you're sharing the revenue with these artists. So you can look for artists that have good followings that you say, hey, this guy's getting a lot of traction, he's getting a lot of view, and it's good for the other guy too, because you're bringing him a new audience that he completely would have never had access to prior to that. Yeah. And you gaining access to a new audience that you never had access to. And to be able to co-monetize these works really is something special. Let's spend a minute crab legging. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk to people who are either have been to Trubify and listened to things, but also maybe like, I really need to go figure this out. Give those end users your pitch, and then we'll come back and do the artists. Sure. So the biggest thing, by the way, we're all music lovers. So even if you're an artist, you're still a music lover. Right. So I speak to everyone on this one. If you're a music lover, please come and support Trubify, and your artist is really what matters here. Trubify, so that we can keep the platform alive and growing and healthy. But for the artist's sake, you are connecting directly with your favorite artists that you can find on Trubify. You're having a direct interaction. People come on, they actually talk to their artists even while they're performing live. It's a direct engagement. And when you financially support your artists, you're doing so directly to the artist. Trubify does take a small cut, but you're able to support your artist. You're not just supporting the behemoth, and your artist is seeing a fraction of a penny. Now let's crab leg and talk to those artists. Yeah. So the artists, that's who I really want to talk to now, because you guys are the bread and butter of the platform. You guys create the content. You guys can collaborate with new artists. But what we're doing for you is we're creating an experience where you can monetize. You can monetize fairly, and where you don't have to do all of the legwork. We are creating marketing assets. for you that you can share out to your social media and to your existing following. And you're not in this alone. We have an A&R team. We have an artist concierge service, if you will. You know, come to Trubify, we'll help you.
Yeah, nice. What else do we need to cover? I want to make sure that we get through all of it. We've talked
Well, there's a third player here.
Please.
The third player is the investor.
Let's get to him.
Because the investor
We're
unlocks
still crab legging.
all of this. Yeah. One more party, one more person, the investor. And right now, the investor is so important.
Right.
We know that the right investors are out there. We're absolutely positive. We need to find them. We need to identify them. And so I even invite, if anyone, you know, knows of people that this is important to and they're investors, please, you know, pass along this podcast, you know, introduce them to the show and have them listen to this and reach out to me. The investor provides the capital that unlocks the opportunity for all of this to happen. Yeah. And what's great about our business model is that not only do we pay artists fairly, there is plenty of skin or pie in the game, I should say, for the investor to really see something that's worthwhile to their time and their checkbook.
I love it. I love it. All right. Now, is there anything else that you want to cover? We talked about all our crab legs, and that's a huge thing. Is there anything else you want to get into before we wrap this thing up?
Well, nothing else I want to get into other than thanking you so much for coming out here and having me on the show yet again. Yeah. But I do want to call out just a couple of people, not by name, please, but by what they're doing for the company. Okay. We have a couple investors that have one particular, in fact, I can't not say his name, Tony. Okay. You're our angel man. You've really taken us, kept us alive. He's the guy that's been, you know, really pushing this company forward with the vision and keeping, you know, they say that even in the lifeboats, you still got to sing. Yeah. And Tony's been our head cantor. He's been our head Trubify. So we really thank you, Tony, and we thank you for believing in us and putting your money where your mouth is, helping keep it alive. But also the team, the Trubify team. So many of us have not taken. No, let me clarify. None of us have taken paychecks for many, many months now. Yeah. And we continue to push on this company and keep the vision alive. And I won't call out names, but there are so many people on the Trubify team who have, and advisors as well, who continue to contribute and help this vision move forward, not at their own gain. In fact, it's at their own expense. A lot of these guys are putting their own time and money into something to keep it alive because we believe in it, because we're musicians. The platform has been built by musicians, for the love of music. Oh, yeah.